But Su Ru shook her head as well. External injuries are easy, but internal injuries are not so quick to heal, Xiaofan. Today's opponent Zhang Xiaofan is not to be underestimated. Even your senior brother Wen's cultivation was defeated by him. Although I heard your senior brother Wen say that even if Zhang Xiaofan won, it wouldn't be easy for him. But with your half-hearted cultivation, I'm afraid it won't do. If it's too much, just admit defeat. Don't take any more risks. Do you understand? Zhang Xiaofan felt warmth in his heart, but didn't nod. He just stammered. Master ... would be angry ... double quotes. Su Ru smiled and shook her head. Silly child, you can rest assured. Your master cares about you more than anything. There was a loud noise in Zhang Xiaofan's head. He immediately turned to look at Tia Bai, but Tia Bai was chatting and laughing with a man named Fan. He didn't even glance in their direction. Su Ru gently patted his head and said, "Go on." Zhang Xiaofan slowly walked onto the platform, standing there alone, but his mind was still echoing Su Ru's words. Your master cares about you more than anything. He was in a state of confusion from childhood to adulthood. From entering Qingyun to now, Tia Bai had always been like a god in his eyes. Although Tia Bai had always treated him poorly, gaining his master's approval had always been Zhang Xiaofan's greatest wish as a young man. And at this moment, hearing his mother say these words, he couldn't believe it. He stood on the platform for a while. Well below, there was a lot of discussion. After a long while, even Zhang Xiaofan began to feel that something was wrong. His opponent had not appeared until now. Below the platform, the disciples of Changmen seemed especially anxious. Most of them turned around to look around. At this moment, a Changmen disciple hurried over from a distance, his face anxious, ignoring the curious gazes around him. He rushed to the side of the white-bearded old man and whispered a few words urgently in his ear. The white-bearded old man's face changed drastically, as if he couldn't believe it. He asked urgently, "Really?" The disciple gritted his teeth and glanced at the platform, finally nodding heavily. The white-bearded old man's face instantly turned ashen. Filled with disappointment, he sat heavily on a chair. Tia Bai saw this and was greatly puzzled. He asked, "Brother Fan, what's the matter?" The white-bearded old man looked at him weakly, sighed deeply, rallied himself, and stood up again, announcing loudly, "Changmen disciple ZhuXian, due to injuries sustained in yesterday's match, is unable to stand up today and has forfeited the match." Both on and off the platform, there was silence. After a moment, a roar of astonishment erupted from the crowd. Although most of the Qingyun disciples were cultivators, there were still many who cursed. Surprisingly, the first reaction of the disciples of the Dezhu Peak was not one of joy, but rather strange looks, followed by mutual exchanges of glances. It took a long time before they shook their heads with a bitter smile, as the crowd behind them displayed countless expressions, and the atmosphere buzzed with voices. Tia Bai and Su Ru slowly stood up, watching their little disciple still standing there dazedly. Su Ru smiled faintly and whispered to Tia Bai, "I told you earlier, the luck of this little disciple of yours is truly extraordinary." Tia Bai was speechless, smiling wryly. This day passed for Zhang Xiaofan under the curious gazes of others. Almost every Qingyun disciple who passed by him would take a few more glances, as if he were some rare exotic animal. Meanwhile, after a day of competition, the results were also out. Zhang Xiaofan had the privilege to be among the top for alongside Che Hao, Lu Zueki, and Zhang Xiaoshu. Che Hao was originally the hottest favorite to win, while Lu Zueki had been extremely popular in recent days. However, Zhang Xiaoshu and Zhang Xiaofan entering the top 4 was unexpected for the vast majority of Qingyun elders. Before this, Zhang Xiaoshu was famous as the only son of Zhang Zhuqiang. Although he was recognized as a young talent in the Fang Huifeng line, he was not particularly famous within Qingyun. However, this time, his exquisite skills and techniques had amazed everyone. In comparison, Zhang Xiaofan's standing among the 4 seemed particularly conspicuous. On the platform, the The four stood side by side, while ZhuXian True Person and King Song True Person, the heads of Qingyun and Longshu Peak respectively, stood in front. ZhuXian True Person still had a smile on his face, showing no sign of dissatisfaction with the unexpected outcome of the competition among Changmen disciples. Below the platform, nearly 1,000 Qingyun disciples gathered together, with the front rows occupied by elders from various peaks. "So, are you?" watched the platform and whispered to Tiabai. Xiaofan looks a bit nervous, doesn't he? Tiabai snorted but didn't say anything. With all eyes on them, how could he not see what his wife saw? On the platform, the four contestants Zhao, at ease, Lu Zweki, cold as frost, Zhang Xiaofan, smiling, and Zhang Xiaofan, standing there awkwardly with his gaze fixed on the ground and his hands seeming unsure where to place them, looked as if he were in a dilemma. ZhuXian True Person glanced at the four of them, a trace of amusement crossing his lips. He turned to the audience and began to speak. "Everyone, until now, the Seven Peaks competition has determined the top 4 disciples. They are all extraordinary talents with exquisite skills, all of them representing the elite of our Qingyun. They shoulder the heavy responsibility of promoting the glory of Qingyun in the future." Before he could finish his words, there was suddenly a fifth laughter from somewhere in the audience. After a moment, laughter erupted from the Qingyun disciples, turning the solemn scene somewhat ridiculous. King Song True Person, who was standing aside, frowned and stepped forward, his gaze like a knife, sweeping across the audience. The laughter died down instantly wherever King Song's gaze went, and in no time, the scene returned to calmness. Having restored order, King Song stepped back and said to ZhuXian, "Senior brother, please." ZhuXian smiled and said, "There's nothing more for me to say. Junior brother King Song, it's your turn." King Song nodded and turned to the audience, saying loudly, "In tomorrow's competition, Qihao from Longshu Peak will face Zhang Xiaofan from Fanghuifang, while Lizweki from Shaoju Peak will face Zhang Xiaofan from Dezhou Peak." While King Song was still speaking, the gazes of the audience were focused on him. It was only at this moment that Zhang Xiaofan breathed a sigh of relief. Under countless gazes just now, he had almost suffocated. "Why are you sweating so much?" Suddenly, Zhang Xiaofan whispered beside him. Zhang Xiaofan was startled, since he unexpectedly defeated Peng Cheng yesterday. Zhang Xiaofan had been cold towards him in front of others. He didn't expect him to take the initiative to talk to him. Although they had only known each other for 3 days, Zhang Xiaofan already considered him one of his close friends.